Welcome to Association Rockstars, where we hear about the journey and insights of some awesome association executives and partners who are building the association industry of tomorrow. I'm your host, Lowell Aplebaum, CEO of Vista, Cova, where we partner with organizations on strategic facilitation. And with me today is Matt Ott, MSCAE CMP. He's the president and CEO of the Global Cold Chain Alliance, which is a coalition of organizations that ensure that there are universally strong cold chain exists globally, maintaining quality and safety through each link. Before joining GCCA, he served as the Executive Vice President and COO of the National Grocers Association, as well as the Executive Director of the NGA Foundation. And for the past 2 decades, he has worked with a diverse group of associations and their member companies on developing strategy and delivering results that has directly contributed to growth in membership programs, events, education, and non-dues revenue. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Of course, my pleasure.
So we like to start these conversations with a similar question, which is if you are a rock star, it's because that you have some things that you are really awesome at. We have had some of these interviews where the interviewee has asked their 5-year-old where their superpower is. Some have asked their spouse. I think someone just looked in the mirror. I'll ask you, as you think about what you bring to the table from a superpower perspective, what's one of yours?
Yeah, so no Peter Parker situation here where if I take off my shirt, there's something going on underneath. So I had to give this one some thought, but originally I was thinking flying, just because I think I've spent enough time in the air over the course of the last decade that really one of the only people I know that's rivaled me in the association space is you.
You can win that game.
Yeah,
happy for you to win the game.
But I think I'm gonna have to go with shape shifting, and I'm gonna say that for good, right? And so usually when you think about shape shifting, there's like nefarious intent, right? You want to go into somebody else's body to do things that maybe wouldn't be so good. But I like to think about whenever I go into a situation, how are my members approaching it, or how are my staff thinking about it? And so a lot of times I try to live through their lives in their shoes, or think about how they're taking that perspective on things. And so that's kind of where I ended up on that one.
I love that as an approach to be in your member's shoes, and I can see their perspective and voice. That member-centric perspective is something that many have to learn. I know from your background, this will be an interesting question, but sort of when did you come to the realization that this was the profession for you?
Yeah, it's actually kind of funny. As it was kind of teased leading up, I'm actually a third generation association executive. I don't know that there's another out there. I don't know that anybody has been able to stick around for 3 generations, probably exited before that. I know there's a lot of second gen association executives out there, but for me, that was the family business, right? So our vacations growing up, it's like we'd go to Disney World, but I'd never get to go ride a ride. I'd be at the Swan and Dolphin helping run registration, or, we'd go to all these cool places for vacation. And, I started to like it very early on, because you got to do cool things like go help out on an expo floor, and get set up from the beginning, right? And my grandfather was running the United Motor Coach Association, or United Bus Owners even before that. So you got to see these really cool exhibits get set up with custom buses and all sorts of cool stuff like that. And so as a kid, I thought it was awesome. And then, you start to think about, teenage angst, right? And it was like,
right.
Oh, I'm gonna pull away from this. I'm not sure I want to do the association thing. And so, I went to George Mason, got a degree in sport management, had no intention of doing the association thing. My first job, of course, I start with an AMC. I'm helping them with corporate hospitality and some other stuff, but I still pulled away. Went to grad school, went back into sport management, and ended up helping the state of New Hampshire set up a nonprofit. And then from there, I ended up with the National Recreation Park Association, kind of taking the best of both worlds. And I think it was really there, and seeing all the good that organization was doing, especially during a really challenging time.
Yeah.
That's, I think, when it really hit me. This is a great opportunity to be able to help others and still, make a great career for yourself.
That it's interesting the path you've walked, and you're still fairly new at the Global Cold Chain Alliance. Key things that you've learned along the way that you feel like have helped prepared you for this role, for where you are in life now?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head earlier in terms of just being member centric. That's just, it is so important. every day, I show up and I'm thinking about what are my members going through, regardless of what organization I've been at, right? Because that's why we're here. And really, I've been very selective in terms of the organizations that I've been working with, because I really feel that you have to have a personal connection to the associations that you're working with. You want to have that personal connection with the members so that you show up every day and you want to run through a wall for them. And that's just something that I think day in and day out, I like to think about. Coming over here to GCCA was the easiest decision ever, especially for me, because I was working in the food industry for the last decade, kind of on either side, right? So NGA, we had independent grocery stores and wholesalers, and then we also had CPG companies. I got my Oreo cup here from NGA, but now with Global Cold Chain, I'm kind of working in the middle there, right? And the food gets from the CPG companies to the wholesalers and grocery stores, and it takes a really special person to work in this industry. It's tough work, as I'm sure we've all seen. We're talking about essential personnel here who have to show up day in, day out, and ensure that we have safe, high quality food that we can eat every day. And so, personally, it's a great mission to serve, and these are great people. I've already been doing member visits, going out and seeing people. I've been in their cold storage warehouses, and just seeing the passion that they have to ensure that we all have food nationwide it's really, really inspiring.
Member-centric as a default feels more appropriate than ever for the moment we're in, where there's so much unrest and so much disruption. Do you feel like being inherently member-centric is something that you were born with, raised with, or you think it's something that others can learn? And if you can learn it, how do you learn to be member-centric?
I think that's a great question. And I think that it's different for all people, right? I mean, I think that some people just have that innate ability to connect with folks, and they're able to think about a greater good or a greater charge, right? And it's not necessarily something that they're about. And for some people, it is very learned. For me, I think it was a little bit of both. I've always, enjoyed interacting with people, and I've always liked working for people and with people. But, I'm also somebody who is very intrinsically motivated by, the task-oriented process, right? And so it's been a challenge as I've gone through my career and, progressed to start thinking about it from a perspective of being more selfless and thinking of the greater good. And, once again, that's why every day I show up, and it's not about the tasks. I think when you get to executive level, you start to shed some of that, and it's more about, what do my members need today? What can I do for the industry that I'm serving? And I think that's something that anybody, if you really think about it, and you really task yourself with, how can I approach this differently? How can I think about it differently? Anybody can gain that way of thinking.
We were just talking before we started about, staff that are not in the office, but really building staff connections and culture. As you think about building a member-centric focus into a staff culture, what are the ways in terms of supervision that you either approach that, or how do you try to build that in others that are going to be working alongside you for you?
Well, I am extremely fortunate here that, at GCCA, I inherited a fantastic staff. My predecessor did a great job in terms of managing culture, and, all of my staff that are intact right now. Even though we're not together personally, I've only met one person, I can still tell, that they are very mission focused. They're very passionate about the work that we're doing. And so that's great. I think, it does come down to culture, and it does also come down to, when you're starting to develop your teams, for me, I think it's great if somebody has the characteristics that are described in a job description. That's awesome. But it's even better if you have somebody that has the personality that you're looking for. And as you're going through the interview process, it's people always have been taken aback by the questions that I'm asking, because, I'm not looking at their.
Come on, give us some of the questions. What do you mean? Some examples.
What do you do for fun?
Yeah.
What are you passionate about? Is there a project that you've done in the past that you were really, really proud of? And I think you can take a lot from somebody. Yeah. If they're able to come up with something quickly, and they're very just passionate about it, and they want to tell you every little detail, I think that says a lot about who they are. And sometimes you'll get someone that's like, I did this thing and there had an X percentage growth, and that's it, right? And to me, you lose some passion there, and I think it's a little bit more forced, and it makes it more difficult to be part of a team, right? And so that's really what I'm looking for, is trying to figure out how do we get people, the old Jim Collins, get the right people on the bus, right? The second part of your question is, I'm definitely somebody who likes to, give people the tools and resources they need, and then let them go, right? If they're well positioned, to do their job.
Yeah.
I can't be the expert in everything, right? And I don't think that anybody who's at the executive level should take that line of thinking that, they're the best at everything or they know everything. Rely on your staff. You've got the right people in place. Let them work. Drop the playbook. Yep. They're the players. Let them go run the play.
The idea of letting them and trusting them, right, is also a key component of staff culture. You're talking about a lot of there's certainly the bottom line important factors, but you're talking about a lot of sort of the cultural factors that are needed in leadership, it feels like, in how you lead and what's brought to the table. I mean, along the way, outside of the knowledge you gained in sports medicine,
Sports management,
I apologize, sports management. And perhaps it was from there. Like, do you have examples in your own journey of those who like taught you or showed you like this side of leadership, right? Like not just like how to do the budget, like not just like how to do the sale, right? But like this side that you're talking about, like what models did you have in your journey that you learned from?
Well, I'm inspired by the association community that we work in every day. I mean, a lot of what I've taken has just been from the peers that I've surrounded myself with. I mean, when I think about the people who show up to work every single day and work for associations, and I mean, let's be honest, right? We're never going to be the most resourced. We're probably not going to be able to pay as well as the for-profit sector. There's going to be volunteer challenges along the way. And yet still we show up every single day, and folks that I know, I'm able to learn from them and the exercises they go through, the cultures that they've set up in their own organizations. Certainly ASAE has been a great resource, but a lot of external things. Lowell has certainly done a great job of developing communities himself that have been very, very beneficial to me, and I think a lot of others in the association community. But from a practical standpoint, I think the person who, I have tried to emulate really is the person that I've been working for the last decade, Peter Larkin. What I'll say about Peter is he's kind of the best of both worlds from a trade association perspective, because he had the industry experience, but he also had the association experience. But he had the knowledge. He very easily could have said, this is what we're going to do, and this is how you're going to do it. But instead he said, look, you guys are the experts. Go make it happen. And because he believed in us and he trusted in a really, really great team that we had at NGA, we were able to double the size of the organization. Quite frankly, we doubled the size of the annual meeting. We doubled the size of membership. We did a lot of really innovative stuff.
Yeah.
That frankly we wouldn't have done if we just didn't trust in each other. And that was all because of him. And so. That's the person that as I continue to move forward and I think about it from a practical perspective, that's the person that I generally want to try to emulate every day.
It's powerful that the person who helps set sort of the example for you is also like your supervisor, so they could both mentor and supervise, and you could see shared growth. I'm interested, you bring a unique perspective to sort of the association landscape, in that it's been in your profession, it's been in your family, it's been in your blood, like you've seen it, sounds like from pretty much day one of life. This is such a moment of shift and change. As you look to tomorrow, any thoughts on the place, the impact, the potential for associations, what feels like it is a very different world?
Yeah, I think that, and we certainly talked ad nauseum about this, that, I just went through an interview process, right? And this is at the forefront of any, board member's mind, right? Because they're not here doing the work. They care greatly about the organization, but, they're also wondering what's next. And I think that really, if you really get bogged down in it, there's a lot of negativity out there. Well, we lost this, or we can't do this, or whatever it is. And, I stepped into this role, and it was just focused on positivity, right? And it's, yes, we can't do certain things, right? But what could we do, right? This is a beautiful opportunity, I think, for a lot of different associations, because the playbook kind of has been thrown out the window for a lot of folks, right? And so, if if you believe in yourself and your members and you think you got a great team in place, now's the time to just throw spaghetti against the wall and see if it sticks.
Yeah.
And, if it does, great. And if it doesn't, try again. But I think those organizations and those executives that are agile and are constantly thinking about what's next, as opposed to saying, well, we've always done it this way, are going to be the ones that really end up on the other end.
Yeah.
Extremely successful. So that's really the mentality that I've come into it with here. And there's going to be challenges for sure. I mean, I think every association right now is going to have some sort of challenge, whether it's membership or events or whatever it is. I mean, there's a broad variety of challenges, and you might even have to face all of them. But at the end of the day, if you can go back, once again, mission focused, right? If you can develop resources, tools, whatever it may be, they're going to help promote your mission, help your members be successful. You're going to be successful yourself as an organization.
The idea of throwing out the playbook, right? Like it leaves you with a blank slate. Like it leaves you like lots of places to start. For those that are looking to like up their game, like for those that are looking to aspire to be rock stars, I mean, what advice or mentorship would you give of like what skills to develop at this moment, or like where to pursue like becoming stronger in terms of what the association industry needs?
Yeah, I think that it comes back to what I had said before about agility, right? I mean, I think everybody's seen that the pace of change has accelerated to a point that it's just very difficult, and it would be very difficult to be able to say you're going to show up day in and day out and do the same thing that you've been doing, right? I mean, and a lot of it's driven by technology, but you've also got to think about the impact of technology in terms of how members are receiving information.
Yeah.
How quickly you can get information out. Should you be approaching your events the same way? I mean, from my perspective, I think that, the association model of we're going to have an annual meeting every year, and we're going to do the same 5-6 things that we've been doing over and over and over again. I mean, I think that model is going to be very, very challenged moving forward. And I think that thinking about it from a different perspective in terms of, all right, so what did you seek to accomplish with your annual meeting? And everybody's are different, right? But at the end of mind, like, what were you trying to do? Were you trying to create business relationships? Were you trying to, provide networking? And some people say networking is, not a great value proposition. I tend to disagree. And I think now more than ever, you got to think about networking from a different perspective because everybody's craving it. I mean, so that's another opportunity. Education. I mean, we have been so married in the association world to saying you have to do education in person. It started to shift. You're seeing more webinars. You're seeing more distance learning opportunities. But from an outcome perspective, how are you dealing with that? What are you providing your members? What sort of tangibility do they have? What can they take away? Can you be thinking about certificates that you haven't thought about before? I think the possibilities are endless, but those association executives and those that seek to be rock stars, right? I think that if they try to be more agile, and maybe even going back to the superhero question, maybe there's some clairvoyance in there, right? Maybe developing the thought process in terms of what's next. Where we're not there yet, but where should we be? Where do we want to go?
The idea of shifting from crisis response to foresight is definitely a compelling one, and I could see it resonates with me. The idea that the rock stars of tomorrow are the ones that are able to look up and out. It certainly seems like that's what you're doing. This flew by. I really appreciate you joining us and speaking with us a little bit this morning.
Of course, my pleasure. Always good to catch up with an old friend, and certainly love talking about and to the association community. I think that we've got a great network of folks out there, and regardless of how challenging these times are, I think that if we rely on one another, we're going to get through it, and we're going to be even stronger on the other end. So
I feel the same way, sir. And thank you. And as always, thank Amy Hager, who is the one behind the scenes making all this magic happen, producing Association Rock Stars and talking to you in the chat. And of course, thank you everyone for tuning in and joining us as always as we continue to grow our own network of those that are helping be leaders in our community. Look forward to joining you next time. And until then, Association Rock On.